Hello YouTube, Game For You here, and today I'm joined by Space Walker.
Hello.
And what we have here in front of us is a 3x3 piston door, which is actually the fastest possible in the current version of the game. Now you've already seen the closing and opening in the intro, but let's just take another look at it.
Yes, so as you can see, it closes instantly and it opens in 0.3 seconds. And another cool feature is that there is no reset time, neither in the closing nor in the opening.
Yeah, and we can demonstrate this if we fly over here. We've replaced some of the wall with barrier blocks. So if we just slow down the game, you can see that there's no reset time. And if you notice the top left corner, we have to use an extra 0.15 seconds to open the door to make it seamless. So it's definitely the fastest possible.
Yeah, so viewers of my channel might remember that a while back I made a door of the same speed with SacredRedstone, but this design that we have here is better in a couple of ways. So first of all, it is quite a bit smaller at just 864 blocks, so that is 18 long, 12 tall, and just 4 blocks wide.
And additionally, we managed to make it fully reliable, non-locational, and non-directional. And as the cherry on top, it works in all versions since 1.5, so that means no cauldrons, no slime blocks, no observers, no node blocks, or any of that stupid modern nonsense.
Yeah, just old school cool wiring. But enough talking. We want to go more in depth on how the door works and some of the new technology that we developed for it.
Yeah, we'll do this by highlighting a few of the important circuits in the door, and let's hop straight to it, shall we?
Right, so this is it. It may not look like much, but this little circuit accounts for all the logic in the door. So let's take a look at how it works.
Yes, so this is what we call an ABBA circuit, which in its essence is actually quite simple. What it does is it'll first power this piston, let's call that A, and then it'll call this piston, let's call that B. As you can see. Now that'll spit this block out and then that block. And what happens in the other case where we power it from that side is it'll do the exact same thing but in reverse. So it'll cause B to power first and then A. Hence it has the name ABBA, A-B-B-A. Now this is incredibly useful in SacredRedstone redstone since, as you can see, it happens in a single game tick, and also it actually happens quite a bit that you need this.
Yeah, so what makes this design so powerful is that it can very easily be expanded by adding a simple module to the end. That is what we have done over here. So it still works, it just has an extra output and an extra piston there. But yeah, you can very easily just add modules to expand it, and that gives a little hint as to how it works as well. So from the activation point, the signal just travels to the other end, and along the way it powers every output in order. And then when you power from the other side, it'll go through that order reversed, so it'll go the other way.
Yeah, and there's really no limit to this actually. You can add as many modules as you need. And to demonstrate this, there will be a bonus clip at the end of the video showing a much larger expansion as well as a visual representation of how the signal travels throughout the circuit. So stay tuned for that. That's amazing to look at.
Yeah, so the second reason this particular design is so powerful has to do with the reset time. So as you may know, pistons have a maximum power frequency of like once every 3 game ticks, and this is perfectly in sync with that. So you can activate this every 3 game ticks, and that's what this looks like.
However, this circuit has a very important issue that we have not addressed yet, and we will address that in a short bit.
Okay, so you may have noticed that we skipped over this copy of the circuits, and that is because, well, it doesn't work. So if I activate it, you can see that there's only one piston that activates. So this specific setup is locational. And it's not hard to fix, but you need to know why it happens if you want to use the circuit.
Yeah, but the reason for this is actually really not that trivial. What actually happens here is that the first piston is still extending when we power this piston over here. So this piston will not schedule an update. And so we'll get a situation where it'll look up like this. And this piston is unable to push because it simply ignored that it got powered because it didn't get an update.
Yeah, so the important thing to note here is that it's a piston being blocked from extending that's breaking it. So if we tweak the setup a little bit, say we move this piston over here. So in the setup, the block is just going to be swapped between the pistons. Neither of the pistons is actually ever being blocked from extending, so we can power it as much as we want and it'll work everywhere and every time.
If you want the circuit to be non-locational, you have to modify it. So here we've taken a circuit from the door itself. This is actually the bottom orange circuit. And now you'll notice here that the pistons are stacked on top of each other rather than next to each other like in the other setups. This allows us to use bot powering to add an extra piston delay in between each modules. This effectively results in there being some time in between each pulse where nothing is happening at any of the outputs. In other words, each piston has finished its extension before the next one starts powering. So, like that. And you basically ensure that you don't get into the situation that we had before, where some pistons were blocked and couldn't push because the piston hadn't finished extending yet.
Now, in this orange circuit, we only had to add extra piston delay at 2 places. So the first one is over here. This piston adds some extra piston delay after this piston extends, and we have another piston here in the back, which adds some piston delay after this piston extends. So that fixes the locationality issue for this specific setup. So as you can see, this works fine, but it's not foolproof for all setups. So if you want a circuit that does work for any setup, then you need to go back here to this setup. So here we added a bunch more pistons. In fact, we added a piston at every point you could possibly need more piston delay. And that solves all the locationality issues that you could have. But it also does something else. It allows you to butt power pistons at the outputs. So as you can see, we have 2 pistons here, or stacks of 2 pistons at the outputs, and it still works fine.
Now when using this, you need to make sure that all the pistons that are interacting with each other have the same delay. So for example, if we were to modify it slightly, so it looks like this piston has extra delay. This means that these two which are interacting with each other would actually conflict, because this one has more delay, so this one wouldn't be finished extending before this one started pushing. So you need to be extremely careful when doing this and ensure that you use it correctly.
That being said, you can get very creative with this circuit. So something we haven't mentioned yet is you don't have to put these modules in a straight line. You can put them at 90-degree angles. So if we look back here, we have an example where the whole ABBA kind of does like a 180-degree turn. So the modules are stacked at 90-degree angles. So you can put this in all kinds of shapes that you want to fit the shape of your build and whatnot. So that's super cool, but you can also play around with the piston delay between modules. You can add even more updaters in between to add more piston delay, thereby lengthening the pulses and allowing you to butt even more pistons at the outputs. But you have to be careful, like we mentioned, that you don't have conflicting pistons so that it stays reliable. But we definitely encourage that you play around with these circuits, like we did as well. Because all of these circuits that you saw today, they're all just evolved from that very first circuit that we showed at the beginning, which itself was again inspired by a rudimentary circuit that Dico and Laviton used in one of their doors. So yeah, definitely play around with this, and you can do a lot of cool stuff with this.
Yeah, but that is it for this explanation video. So if you want to see the tutorial for this door, it can be found on Space Walker's channel, and there's a link in the video description, along with a download of this wallet, so you can check out all these setups that we've showed. Now if you want pistons to look as sexy as they do in this video, there will be a video on the game speed mod for Minecraft 1.14.4 on my channel very soon, if it isn't already there of course, so you can use it yourself. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed the little last bonus clip that we mentioned earlier. After that, the video is going to be over, so please leave a like, and we'll see you next time.
Bye bye.